Okay, today, normally I do math on this channel, but today we're going to do something slightly different. There's a technique that you can use to study, and it is one of the easiest and most powerful techniques I think there are for studying. It's called a mind palace, and what that is essentially you imagine items that you want to remember along a route. So let's say my route is my house, right? So here's my house. I have my room, and I have a hallway, I have my bathroom, right? And then the kitchen is right here, the living room is right here, and then the door is right here, right? So for a mind palace, what you have to do is imagine yourself on this path, right? So I'm in my room. I can see the walls, the bookshelf, whatever. And then imagine a key image that lets you remember whatever the information is. So let's say I want to remember, I don't know, the Abbasid Caliphate. So to do that, I remember Sid the Science Kid, right? He has the stupid middle part, right? So Sid, and he has abs, Abbasid. So he has big fat abs, right? And he's doing sit-ups. So Abbasid, like ab, sit-ups, Sid, Science Kid. He's doing sit-ups in my room, right? That is how, and then you put it in this location. So he is right here. So you imagine going through your room, and you say, okay, I'm in my room, what do I see? I see Sid doing sit-ups, right? So this image is in your brain much more than just like some words or some numbers would be, because you're actively imagining this person in this familiar location, right? So Sid is doing sit-ups in my room. This is really weird. And you can associate that with the concept that you're trying to remember, so the Abbasid Caliphate. And you could even go a step farther and put him on a map, like make your rug into a map, and then make that map where the Caliphate actually was. So, in this case, it's around Baghdad, right? So imagine this is Baghdad, right? My drawing skills are great. It's not an anthill, okay? So you can remember that, and then now you know that he is in the middle of Baghdad on this map, and you just remembered one of the important like empires in world history, and you remembered where it is. And also you can add more information on it. So like they are Arab, so you could add the kind of curved sword, right? The khopesh. And then that could represent to you, that could represent being Arab. So you just add and add and add to this image until it represents this idea for you. And then it's all in your room. So I go into my room, and then that's just what I see, right? And what's nice about this method is you keep going. So as I start in my room, I walk out, and let's say there's a room over here. Let's say this is the, I don't know, room with a pool table. And I have to remember, I don't know, let's say I have to remember China, how they had champa rice. Because the idea for this video is I was studying for world history, and I actually use this method. But this is like a very basic version. So if I have to remember champa rice, then just incorporate it in this room somehow. So as I walk out, I look to my left, and I see the pool table. But what's weird about the pool table is actually the green top has champa rice growing on it. And then, okay, so it's rice growing on it. 1, how do I remember the name? And 2, how do I remember its characteristics? Well, to remember that it's short, right? It's shorter than normal rice. I can put a ruler next to it. So there's a dude holding a ruler, right? And he's measuring it, and he's like, huh, And the ruler's like way bigger. It's like, huh, that's kind of short. And then also, it's growing really fast. So you watch it like grow and then harvest, grow and then harvest, like it's moving. So that shows that it grows really fast. And then to remember the name, you can do something like this below. So you could do, I don't know, Chan, I think of the Japanese, like, honorific. So I think of, like, I don't know, an anime girl, right? And then Pa, I think of a father. So it's just a dad. And he's like, yep, that's my daughter. Champa rice, right? And you just put that in that room. And it's all in one image. So that's right there on this pool table. And then, boom, in this area, you already have two very important pieces of information for world history about Champa rice and about Theravada, and about the Abbasid Caliphate, right? Now, there are some ways, you just keep doing this for as long as your route goes, and let's say you can even take it outside. So let's say you have a driveway, and then you could look and see there's something in your front yard, and there's something on the left, and there's something in both of the car spots, and in the tree, and then there's something on the road to your right, and then on the houses across. You can put as many pieces of information you want, as long as the route is long enough. Now, if you want to get more advanced, right, there's this thing, I call it location blending. So what you do is, instead of taking a familiar location, right, instead of taking your house, because that's limited, you only have so much space inside your house. Instead of doing that, this requires a lot more imagination. You create a location. So what I'm doing for world history is Unit 1, right? First, what you do is I just set like kind of a baseline. So I stone archway in the middle of nowhere, just a void with a stone archway in it. And then there's a big line on the ground. And to remember the year that this is between, I have a number system that I've done. And I'll do a different video on number systems. I'll link a video to a number system video. I'll link it in the description. But essentially what you do is you associate numbers to images. So that way you can remember years. So my image for 1200 to 1450 is, like, let's say it's someone looking at a crystal ball and a dragon, I don't know, breathing fire, right? So this number system, also, if this doesn't make sense, I have a video in the description, it'll explain it. He can explain it way better than I can, but I really suggest making one. It helps with number memorization a lot. But this is the beginning, right? You just imagine whenever you have the date that you need to remember, or like the time period, you think, okay, what does the front of it look like? This, right? It's a stone arch with these two people in front. And then to make the rest of your palace, you just make stuff on the interior of the arch. So as you go through the arch, right, you have something on this side, and you have something on this side. And maybe this could be the Chinese, like, archway thing. And then it's the Song Dynasty, so it's some guy singing. And then you move on, and then the, I don't know, the Confucian guy is breaking out of a gravestone because they're reviving Neo-Confucianism. Huh? Right? And he's kicking the Buddha to the side. I can't draw the Buddha. Be that way. Right? You just add all these little images that associate with the information, because you already know the information. Right? You've already learned it in class. This is just studying. And studying, you're making a notebook. Like, kind of like, it's like a navigation index for your brain. So, like, you go through here, you just go through your path, right? You walk in one direction, or you walk through your house, right? And you know you start in your room, and you know what all the rooms are. So let's say there's a piece of information that you forgot. You just have to walk through, okay, I know this, bathroom I know, kitchen, living room I know. Oh, but this one I don't remember. And then you see the image and you're like, oh, that one's, I know what that one is. That's the Muslim empires or something. I don't know. And then you remember that there's a carriage there. And then you're like, okay, wagon technology. Got it. And then you just do that with all the locations. And with the location blending here, you're not using an existing location. You're not using your house. You're not using your school. You're creating a location. So you're imagining this like this stone archway, and then on the right there's the Chinese gateway with the guy singing, and then the Confucianist guy breaking out of his grave because he got revived, and he's kicking the boot. Like, you remember all this stuff, and then that leads to your information. So this image right here is 12, and then 0, 0. This image right here is 14, and then 50. So I know the year range, and then I go into the Chinese gateway with the guy singing, and I know it's Chinese, and it's the Song Dynasty. And then I just have to see this image right here, and I know in the Song Dynasty, 1200 to 1450, they revived Neo-Confucianism, and they sought to get rid of Buddhism. And that's just from one little, like, kind of like route in your head, where you start here, and then you just go through, and that's it. And you can do this infinitely, just as long as you make sure to go through it a couple times. And with this technique, you can study anywhere you are. So your notebook is now in your head. So you can, whenever you want, imagine this route here. Start in your room, just make sure you know what each thing is, where each thing is, what each thing represents, and then it'll strengthen that image over time, so that way it becomes less of a problem of going through the route, and you can recall it much easier without having to go the full route. And this is exactly what I've done with world history, and it works wonders. It really does. One thing that's important, though, is that you have each thing lead into each other when you're making locations. And what I mean by that is you can't just have a singing guy, right? You can't just have him at the Chinese gateway and then imagine like a completely separate field of rice. Like, okay, I imagine this guy, and then I have a different image that's a field of rice, and I have a different image that's a train, even though that hasn't been invented yet, right? You can't do that. Because what happens is, if they're not linked together, it's not an order. The reason that you do it in a route format is because when you're in a route, you're walking, and the surroundings stay the same. So that way, you know there's supposed to be something in the kitchen, and you can't possibly forget that there's a piece of information there. What makes it harder with location blending is that you're creating the location. So you could just drop certain parts of it, and it's not related to something that's real that you can reference. It's just something that you made. So instead of these 3 separate images here, what you want to do is you want to link them together. So you have your Chinese gateway, and then you have your man singing. But he's singing because he's holding rice, and he's standing in a field of rice that's just beyond the gateway. And then through that field of rice, the train is going, and it's chugging along, right? You have to link them together, so that as you travel along your route, each thing leads into the next thing, and a previous term interacts with the next term. That's the gist of it. It takes practice to get used to, but I guarantee you, if you use this, it works really well. And if you want to learn about it from the actual guy that I learned it from, I'm going to have a ton of links in the description. But 100%, check this out. It works really well. That's all I can say.